Next thing I want to talk about is Paul Felder retired.
Interesting.
Yeah, very interesting retirement. So a lot of people were calling him out, saying that he was ducking people, particularly Islam Makhachev, since Islam, was trying to get a top 15. Unfortunately, didn't. Now he's fighting Thiago Moses. Is it Moses? Most likely, Islam is going to run through that guy. Unfortunately, very weird that he's not getting a top 15. However, he is everyone's worst nightmare.
Yeah. He's the guy who everyone should be scared of.
Yeah.
He's just
He'll steamroll most people in the lightweight division. It's just amazing pressure on the feet and on the ground. And he's been struggling to get a fight since he actually asked RDA. RDA had been asked, turned it down. However, that's because RDA has actually had surgery very recently, and it's too quick a turnaround because he's injured. Then Paul Felder was asked, and he turned it down. And Paul actually had to quickly say, "Look, I'm retiring. Everyone keeps calling me out that I'm, ducking and weaving away from competition, particularly Islam Makhachev. However, I had to turn down fights and not give any explanation because I couldn't tell anyone that I was going to retire until today. And now today, which was yesterday, he has now said, "Look, I'm retiring." Look, amazing fighter. I really feel like he beat Dan Hooker, to be honest. I feel like it was a close fight.
It was close.
It might verge on the conversation of robbed. I really think that he beat Dan Hooker.
I believe that he beat Dan Hooker as well.
Yeah. Well, most fighters do. Most fighters do think they've won that fight, and it's like, okay, we get it. We know you did. But in this circumstance, I really do think that Paul Felder definitely beat Dan Hooker, which would have been a different kind of fight trajectory for him, because then he had to take a really, really late notice fight against RDA, cut a huge amount of weight in a short amount of time.
Well, he was prepared. He wasn't even training in MMA.
Triathlon.
He was trying. Yeah. So to say that, he's scared and all that, I just don't think he's just. I feel like he's moved on. That's what I feel like.
He made it clear that the energy that he once had to, be in the gym, because he could never be not in the gym. Now that he's 37 now, he's just nearly 37 this year. He's getting closer to 40, which, that's okay when you're in a light heavyweight division or a middleweight division or a heavyweight division. However, if you're lightweight, it's just a huge list of hungry motherfuckers.
Yeah.
And, he was just thinking, look, if I'm not going to touch that title, or I'm not going to be in the contention for title, like to fight for it, I don't see the point. And he also said, look, I could never stop being in the gym. But at this point, look, he is struggling.
Yeah.
He used to be one of these people that couldn't get out of the gym. He just loved being there all the time. And he says, look, probably a few months ago, I hit mitts. And then after this, I was like, fuck this, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
And it seems like that fire's just burnt away. And that's normal because in those fights that he's done, they take a lot out of you mentally, that fire.
And you could see that with Dan Hooker, because he was so emotional. He even quit there in the cage. He says, "Nah, I think that's the end for me." And he kept going back and forth between retirement and coming back, and retirement and coming back. And I just felt like I feel like if he just does this now and just puts it to bed, then he can just leave it, because I feel like you got to understand, the fucking lightweight division's like a shark ward, like a shark tank. He's got 2 losses already, I don't feel like he wants to make that even worse. He's 17-6. He's 36. He's moved on to something so much better. I feel like commentary is where he's really passionate about.
He's very good at it. Actually, it's triathlon that he's most excited for.
And that's the best thing, because a lot of fighters, once they leave the UFC, that's it. Like, what do I do now? Because one thing you got to do, obviously, to quote Jocko Willink, to keep going in life, you got to find your next mission. You got to find something that you're proud of next, something next to do, to set your sights on. And it's also being brutally honest with yourself. Like you said, he's not really going to go for a title. I can't see him going for a title shot.
No.
He's too far from a title shot. And he's past his prime. So now he's got a new mission to focus on. I feel like he can just keep getting better as a journalist or keep getting better as a triathlete because if he's got all this other stuff, he's not going to want to be coming back to fighting.
No.
So
because it's almost like you've got one foot out the door, which is essentially what's been happening.
Yeah.
He's had one foot out the door.
Yeah.
I would like to just run through his most notable wins. I mean, number one would obviously be his win over Charles Oliveira. He made him tap to strikes, knocking him out by TKO. And what's interesting about that fight is, after Paul Felder beat Charles Oliveira, Charles might even say it was a little bit embarrassing because he then had the image of being a quitter, that he'd quit and he tapped to strikes, right? And that's not really a common thing that you see in the UFC or in MMA in general, tapping to strikes. And then following that loss, it really motivated Charles Oliveira to be on this huge win streak. Now coming up to, I think, 8 or 9 win streaks. And then, just a couple of weeks ago, winning the lightweight belt over Michael Chandler. It really motivated Charles Oliveira to become the lightweight champion and to, turn around turn around from that point in his life and go on a massive win streak. So I think if you're going to talk about Charles Oliveira, Paul Felder has to be very connected to his story. His other wins notably would be, James Vick. He rematched Edson Barboza, so he lost to Edson Barboza in the past.
It bothered him bad.
And it did bother him, and he beat Edson Barboza.
So he avenged that one loss that was pretty much bugging him.
Yeah, and his other wins is like Stevie Ray, Karma Worthy, and things like that. Outside of that, he has, outside of those wins, he has fought a lot of very notable names. Ross Pearson, RDA, Dan Hooker.
Mike Perry.
I do feel he definitely beat Dan Hooker. I feel that he very much did.
Well, I feel like that's what was really on his mind, because Mike Perry was a split decision loss, and so was Dan Hooker's split decision loss, and Rafael dos Santos was a split decision loss. But do you remember when he fought RDA, and then one person rewarded Felder? You just looked at him like, you remember we actually spoke about that on the podcast. Like, he was quite surprised as well. Anyway, like you say,
that was by one of the judges gave made most of the rounds. I think it was like a 49-48 Paul Felder. Yeah. And then he's like looking, he's like, the fuck was that? I didn't win that fight. Look, he's a very straight shooter. He's very much a straight shooter. Even when you saw, the Joshua Fabia stuff, the leaked footage and all that, he just looks at him and goes, I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. He's very much very honest, straight talker. He's very good on the mic. He's an incredible commentator. And it was nice to see even, Conor McGregor, he had his own little tiff with Paul Felder and actually said,
on me.
Happy retirement, as well as Islam Makhachev, he said, happy retirement, you deserve it and all that. So, look, hats off to Paul Felder, had some amazing fights. And good luck to the Irish Dragon and wherever he goes elsewhere. I know he'll probably move on to, being a triathlete. And typically between 35 and 45, that's, when these endurance athletes really do strive in those areas. It really, the more mature athletes start to get even better and better when it comes to endurance sports. So good luck to Paul Felder. You put on some amazing fights. And I hope he continues as an analyst because he's bloody good at it.